With the SpaceX IPO on the horizon, I wanted to take a moment and talk about space. I recently listened to an interview with Jarek Isaacman, the administrator of NASA, and he broke down the current verticals for the space economy, the future space economy that's coming. I want to talk about those specific verticals he mentioned and potential future verticals of the space economy and companies that exist in those verticals, my thoughts on those companies, and how I'm viewing investing in space at the moment. A little bit about me. I am a stock analyst for a holding company with over 10 million of assets under management, as well as my own personal $150,000 portfolio. Just so you guys know, we are not certified financial advisors. This video is not financial advice. All investments carry risk. You are solely responsible for your investments. We encourage everyone to do their own due diligence and research. We have a high risk tolerance and a long investment horizon. This video reflects our opinions only at the time of recording and are for educational and entertainment purposes only. So let's get right into it. First off, Jarek Isaacman kind of broke this current space economy into three parts. There's the launch part, which is, obviously getting into space. You can kind of think of this as logistics, because it's not only getting into space, it's also getting around space. So this is one part of the current space economy that exists already. The second part of the space economy that already exists is observation. You can think of this as, Google using satellite images to build Google Maps, or countries employing spy satellites, those sort of things, to spy on their enemies' movements and where their naval ships are, etc. The third part of the current space economy is communication. The biggest two parts of that is cellular kind of connectivity and internet connectivity. There's also, you can have a satellite phone, those types of things, but mainly what we're going to be talking about for the space economy today is internet providers that are using space and cell phone service providers that are using space. Let's get into it and talk about the companies that exist in each one of the current space economy verticals, starting with launch and starting with SpaceX. With its IPO on the horizon, this is a main reason why I wanted to talk about this topic today. But the most important thing is the evaluation when you're thinking about investing in these companies. Based on this article from the Motley Fool, they think that it's targeting a $2 trillion valuation, which would mean it would be trading at roughly 130 times sales and 250 times EBITDA. This is so far and above any multiple of any reasonable stock trading in the market today. Even Palantir, which is also super overvalued, as of the time of them writing this article, is trading 79 times sales. And I would never touch a company that was trading that expensively. So if you're, this is the first time I'm going to recommend buying Palantir on this channel at its current valuation. If you were going to choose between buying SpaceX and Palantir, I would actually recommend buying Palantir over SpaceX at its kind of IPO price because it is so overvalued. I think that Palantir is growing faster and actually proposes a better value proposition than SpaceX if it actually IPOs at 2 trillion. But other companies in the launch space is Rocket Labs, but it is also trading very expensively at 62 times sales. There's Firefly trading 40 times sales. There's Blue Origin, which is private. And then there's Northrop Grumman, Boeing, but they're kind of more of defense primes and not a pure space play. But they're also, if you wanted to get a little bit exposure to space launch, you could also look into investing in those companies as well. As you can already see, the main thing that I am trying to pull out here is just how expensive all of these space-related companies are. And that's kind of a little foreshadowing of my conclusion about how I'm personally investing in the space industry. But before we get to that conclusion, let's go over the next section of the kind of current space economy, which is observation. The biggest kind of one I've heard a little bit about is Planet Labs. They make satellites. They are also trading 39 times sales. And then you have all of the defense primes once again in here, as well as French companies like Airbus. Now let's go on to the third part of the current space economy that exists, which is communication. And we have two main players in this space that are, public or becoming public, and that is AST SpaceMobile, and we have SpaceX. SpaceX's Starlink is the one competing in this space. It's mainly a internet service provider at the moment, but they are moving into direct to sell as well. Now, AST SpaceMobile is trading 500 times sales at the moment, and I wanted to point out this kind of bottom line that ChatGPT brought through for us when we're talking about AST SpaceMobile and them competing with Starlink. It's pointed out that AST SpaceMobile does have higher technical ambition for phone native connectivity, but execution risk, and they have slower rollout, whereas Starlink has overwhelming scale, capital, and deployment speed, but less optimized today for direct phone connectivity. And I'm hearing all of these people talk about AST SpaceMobile, how excited they are for it, but I just really cannot understand the investment thesis for AST SpaceMobile. I don't see a world where SpaceX, in their newer generations of satellites, don't become capable of providing, high speed data, 5G data to phones. I just don't see how they wouldn't eventually move into that space. And honestly, I would never want to own a company that is competing directly with Elon Musk. He's just so well capitalized. He's such a good executor that I think that there's going to be some intense competition in the space for AST SpaceMobile from SpaceX, and I just don't really want to be a part of that, especially when you're trading at 500 times sales. Now, there might be some contracts in the backlog that make this not as crazy. I know that's the same for a lot of neoclouds, for example, but just in general, I just don't want to own a company that is competing with Elon Musk. I know they don't have that capability of today, but I know it's on their product roadmap. And they're just going to have so many more satellites. They are vertically integrated, so their cost to orbit is going to be so much less than what AST SpaceMobile is going to be able to achieve. And ultimately, that should mean lower prices to consumers, which means they'll probably be the lowest cost provider. And as a consumer myself, I know if the product is good quality, I'll always just choose the cheapest option. For pretty much everything, maybe with some rare exceptions. But yeah, basically, when you're looking at the space economy today and all of the multiples of prices to sales, I kind of already foreshadowed this conclusion. All of these are just too darn expensive for me to really be looking into them that that interestingly. I'm not that interested in any of these companies at these kind of evaluation multiples. I'm definitely not going to be interested in SpaceX if it comes out at a $2 trillion valuation. That's just way too rich of a valuation for me. Also, there's definitely a dynamic with IPOs that I think is super, super important to keep in mind, which is Warren Buffett's kind of quote, which is IPO means it's probably overpriced. These companies are coming to market on their terms with perfect market conditions. They choose the timing of their IPO so that they can choose the perfect market condition. They can choose their kind of offering price, and all of the things are just perfect for them to be selling their stock to the market. It's not the perfect time to be buying that stock. So I personally don't really like to participate in IPOs. I know it's very, very exciting. There's a lot of hype around a lot of these companies, but from my perspective, it really looks like a bubble. This is going to be a massive, massive industry in the future, but I don't think this is a very good entry point into it, is basically my conclusion. This is a industry that I want to invest in, just not at these prices. With all of the execution risk that still exists in front of them. Space is very, very unforgiving. So if a company has any execution risk, this is the most difficult industry to execute in of any industry that exists today. But I do want to talk a little bit about the future parts of the space economy as well. The main one being tourism and travel. Chamath Palihapitiya in the latest All In podcast mentioned that he thinks the first person that makes a red light district in space will become a trillionaire. Part of that is obviously there's going to be pretty much no regulation or no way to enforce regulation in space, or it's going to be much, much more difficult. But obviously, that's not really what I'm thinking of investing in personally. I don't want to be really an investor in that, but there's other ways to play that as well, mostly tourism, probably casinos. You'll have space hotels, trips to the moon, moon hotels. There'll have to be logistics getting to and from. There'll be space travel around Earth itself, so getting from New York to Tokyo much quicker than you could in a supersonic jet even. So these are all ways you can also be playing the space industry. The main one in that is public at the moment is Virgin Galactic, but they have massive execution risk ahead of them. I also don't know if there's proven market demand for that yet at their current price that they're offering those tickets at. I think it's something like $750,000 per ticket for a basically 2-hour ride that you don't even break the 100-kilometer altitude mark of. You just go above 80 kilometers, depending on what your definition of the actual boundary of space is. You don't even technically go to space. So, I do think it is interesting if we do start to see solid market demand and those tickets are being bought and they finish their plane and it's launching repeatedly successfully and they're building more planes in the backlog. I could definitely see myself investing in this company, maybe at 3x's by then already, but if it just has such good future returns still. I did a deep dive on Virgin Galactic in the past, basically had like massive upside potential, but because of the downside potential, basically bankruptcy, it wasn't interesting to me because it wasn't asymmetric. So I'm willing to wait until it becomes asymmetric. They have the proven demand. They get past all of the execution risk of actually building these spaceships. Then I might actually be interested in investing in it, even if the future return is, 1/3 the current future return of a 30x, it becomes a 10x. Well, I'm much more happy in an asymmetric 10x than a symmetrical 30x where the downside is going to 0 in that position. So also in tourism and travel will be SpaceX. They've talked about point-to-point travel on Earth for a long time. And Blue Origin, they also do tourism. They've done their kind of straight up and back down tourism flights a few times, and that actually does go above 100 kilometers. But that company obviously isn't public. A few more places I want to talk about in the future space economy is manufacturing or energy production. I kind of lump that into one. I think SpaceX definitely has a big kind of play in this future part of the space economy. You'll also have probably new players come in the future where you need like microgravity to manufacture certain types of goods, maybe medicine, that kind of stuff. Next, another part of this future space economy is going to be resource extraction. This could potentially be mining on the moon or mining asteroids. You'll definitely need to be mining resources on the moon in order to make rocket fuel. So there'll definitely be some kind of company employed either by NASA to extract those resources and provide it as kind of a launching point. Mass drivers will have to get built. All kinds of things. Mass drivers are more of a logistics part though. There'll also definitely be defense. So all the defense primes will probably benefit from the space economy because they're putting up all these expensive assets into space. There's going to be, rival countries also launching things into space. At some point, there may even be space piracy, who knows? So you would definitely want defense in space. So the defense primes will probably benefit from that future part of the space economy. You also have like neoprimes like Anduril. Palantir will probably benefit from this, but again, still very, very expensive. Anduril isn't public. And then the last part of the future space economy is actually going to be insurance. There's going to be so many insurance products that are needed for all of this new kind of industry that is happening in space. I'm sure there already is insurance on rocket launches, but people are going to want insurance on their space hotels and their trips to space. Just like there's travel insurance, they're going to want travel insurance for going to a space hotel that's orbiting Earth or a space hotel on the moon. So yeah, there's going to be tons and tons of new industry that is going to come about from this new space age that we are entering. I am very, very excited for it. I think that it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. Just at the moment, with the players that I'm confident in, like SpaceX or Rocket Lab, that I think have good ability to execute and are building good products with good demand, they're just trading too expensively. I do think there is a little bit of a bubble in evaluation around space companies, especially now with the SpaceX IPO coming. There could just be even more kind of froth brought into the market there. So while this is happening, though, I do hope that it kind of brings some tension away from Tesla. So this might be a good opportunity with the SpaceX IPO to potentially be investing in Elon Musk's other company, Tesla, as you know, a lot of Elon Musk stands split their 100% Tesla positions to 50-50 Tesla SpaceX. So you could see some selling pressure out of Tesla to buy the SpaceX IPO or buy SpaceX stock after the IPO. And hopefully, I'm hoping that that creates a decent opportunity to buy Tesla. So that's honestly my biggest takeaway from this kind of the SpaceX IPO and all the excitement around the space industry and investing in the space industry is hopefully it makes a good opportunity to buy back into Tesla as the focus shifts away from Tesla and towards the excitement of the space industry. And this is part of being a contrary investor. This is where a lot of the best returns are made, are not by following the crowd, by going the opposite direction of the crowd. Now obviously it's important that you're still right, and obviously Tesla has a lot of crowd around it as well, a lot of fans, and a lot of people are aware that it's a really good investment, a really good company. But again, it's also priced like everybody knows that, with a very rich evaluation multiple itself. So that's kind of how I'm playing it. I'm seeing if this focus shift away to Elon's other company, SpaceX, potentially gives a good buy-in opportunity for Tesla. I'm going to continue to watch the space industry and hopefully wait for a future kind of drop in valuation multiples, or until fundamentals actually catch up with valuations before I decide to buy in, because I don't want to buy in and then it to be dead money for 5 years as the stock basically trades sideways as I wait for fundamentals to catch up with the price. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot just about how we think about investing in general. Make sure to underwrite your own investments, though. We could totally be wrong about some of these companies. I haven't done intense, super deep research into any of these companies. A lot of it's a little bit more surface level, to be completely honest and transparent. So maybe there's something about Rocket Lab that makes it 62 times sales completely justifiable because of a massive contract backlog, for example. But it still is not quite asymmetric enough for me. I'd love to see a company that has a massive contract backlog, but is also still trading at 3 or 6 times sales, which is a much more reasonable price to sales multiple. That's the great thing about investing. You don't have to swing at every single ball that's thrown at you. In fact, you can miss thousands, or not swing at thousands of balls and swing at one that you're super, super sure of. And just I really don't prefer to invest in stocks that have a very, very stretched valuation multiple. So again, thank you so much for liking. If you got any value out of this, make sure to drop a like. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to subscribe as well. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.